The first edge looks like a chain of stitches at each side of the work. See, it's really nice and neat. It's made with one extra stitch on each side of the work. So when you cast on, add 2 stitches to the number of stitches you need to cast on. And then in every row, right side and wrong side, every row, you slip the first stitch, keep the yarn at the back of the work, and then insert the right needle from right to left. So you slip the stitch purlwise like this. And then you work in the main pattern of your project, whatever pattern it is. This selvage works nice with any pattern pretty much, so it's quite safe to use it in any project. And then when you come to the last stitch, you stop and purl it. So this is my last stitch. Bring the yarn to the front and purl the last stitch. And you do the same thing in every row, right side, wrong side, doesn't matter. Every row you slip the first stitch and you purl the last one, and then you will get a nice chain of stitches on each side of your work. The second way to make a nice edge creates a little string of beads, I would say. So it's a line of small knots that is created on each side of your work. So that's how it looks from the right side, and that's how it looks on the wrong side. The look is totally different, but the interesting thing is that this type of selvage is made almost the same way as the previous one, but the look is totally different. So this one also uses 2 stitches, so it's 1 extra stitch on each side. So when you cast on your stitches, add two extra ones to them, and then you do pretty much the same thing except for the third step. First, you bring the yarn to the back. That is very important. That's what creates those nice knots. So you bring the yarn to the back, and then you slip the first stitch purlwise, same way. You insert the right needle from right to left and slip it. And then you work in your main pattern. This type of edging works with many patterns, but to make sure that you like the look of it with your main pattern, it's always a good idea to make a swatch. And that's true for any edging, because edging is a part of your project. And before you start working on the big project, it's much safer to make a swatch and ensure that you like the look of it. So work to the last stitch, then stop. And remember, in the first way, we used to purl the stitch, but now we knit it. And that's what totally changes the look of the edging. So you knit the last stitch, and you do the same thing in every row. Right side, wrong side, doesn't matter. Every row, you slip the first stitch. Make sure you bring the yarn to the back, because that creates this little nice knot that looks like a bead to me. Then you work in your main pattern up until you come to the last stitch, and you knit the last stitch. And that gives you a super cute chain of knots on the edges of your work. The third way to create a nice edging is different from the first two, in a sense that you use 2 stitches at each side of the work to create a nice kind of a little band of garter stitch that could be used as a decoration. It looks quite nice, and there is another little bonus to it. Depending on the width of the fabric, it might prevent curling. So see, mine is a stockinette stitch, but it doesn't curl as much on the sides, and that's all thanks to the little band of garter stitch. When you cast on your stitches, add an extra 4 stitches, because like I said, we use 2 at the beginning of the row and 2 at the end of the row. And then you knit those 2 stitches, the first 2 stitches and the last 2 stitches. You simply knit them in every row, just like that. You bring the yarn to the back, then you knit 2 stitches, then you work in your main pattern, but you stop when you come to the last 2 stitches. and it would be just in one stitch. Here we go. I stop. I have 2 stitches left, and then I knit them no matter what. Right side, wrong side, doesn't matter. You knit the first 2 stitches and the last 2 stitches in every row, and then you would get a reversible edging that looks exactly the same. Basically, the first 2 ones, they also look the same on both sides. So and that's good for edging on a scarf or a blanket or anything else you'd like to make. Let's take a look at the edging number 4. This one is very similar to the previous one. You have 2 stitches at the beginning of the row and 2 stitches at the end of the row, and those 2 stitches on each side, they create a nice little band of knotty stitches. In the previous way it was the garter stitch, and here it is the seed stitch. It has a different look. It's also reversible. It also somewhat prevents the fabric from curling. So they are both good, but it's just the look of it, and the garter stitch might look good with some stitch patterns. The seed stitch might look good with others. So like I said, the best way to know is to swatch. But now let's see how we make this kind of edging. You work in seed stitch. The first 2 stitches you knit 1 and purl 1. Then you work in the main stitch pattern of your project up until you come to the last 2 stitches. Then you stop and you purl 1 and knit 1. And you repeat the same thing in every row. The seed stitch is lined up in such a way that you knit the first stitch and you knit the last stitch. And then you have purls as the second one and the second last. So that's an easy tip to remember how to work this edging, how to make those selvages. But otherwise, no complications at all. Complications will start when we move to the last way. That one will be a bit challenging, but it's beautiful, so it's definitely worth a try. And here it is, the way number 5. It's an I-cord that is created as you knit your project, and it lines up the sides of your work. It doesn't look as great on a stockinette stitch, but it does look awesome on any textured pattern. So if you work your project in seed stitch, cables, brioche, then this type of edging will do a really nice job, and it will make your project look couture, basically, because that's what it is. It's a really nice way to decorate your finished project, a scarf or a blanket or anything else that has exposed edges. And now let's take a look at how we make it. This one requires 4 stitches at each side of the work. So these 4 first stitches and the 4 last stitches will be worked as an I-cord based on slip stitches, basically. So if you decide to use this type of edging, then cast on the number of stitches required for your project plus 8 more, 4 over here and 4 over there. Another thing is, especially if you have long rows, it helps a lot to put a stitch marker to separate these edgings from your main work, to make sure that you accidentally don't just work through those stitches in your main pattern. And that will help you avoid tinking later on. So with all these tips in mind, let's see how we work this edging. With the yarn in the back, slip the first stitch purlwise, same way as we slipped it in the ways number 1 and 2. Now knit 1 stitch and then repeat the same thing again. The yarn stays at the back of the work at all times. Slip and knit. That's it. Now you work in your main pattern up until you come to the last 4 stitches that are on your needles. And that would be just about here. So I have 4 stitches and I do the same thing. Slip 1 stitch with the yarn at back, knit 1, slip 1 and knit 1. Here we go. That's what we do to make this edging. But that's not all, because this edging, unlike the other 4, this one has 2 rows. So this is what you do in the right side row, and then you turn your work and you do a different thing to the same 4 stitches at the beginning and the end of the row. So in the wrong side, it's not necessarily wrong side actually, the I-cord curls into this side. So if you decide to make it on the right side of the work, that's good too. Let's just call it row 2. So in this row, you bring the yarn to the front, then you slip the first stitch, purl the next one, slip again, and purl again. So you do the same thing twice. And then you work in your main pattern until you come to the last 4 stitches in this row. And that would be right here. And we do the same thing. With the yarn in the front of the work, slip the first stitch, purl the next, slip again, purl again. And here we go. Repeat rows 1 and 2. Remember to change the instructions for the next row. It's not the same every row. It has to be different. So row 1, we slip with the yarn at the back of the work and we knit. And row 2, we slip at the front of the work and we purl. And then you'll get this beautiful I-cord at each side of your work. And like I said, it works best with the textured patterns. Here you go, 5 ways to make neat side edges. To get written instructions for every one of them, click the link in the description. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next Thursday.